The thing is let me challenge this. Is he really happy if you're not being pleased during sex? Yes, you are feeling connected. You're feeling close. You have, the connection of the bodies together, and you're feeling each other's breathing and all of that, all of those beautiful connecting things. But it could be at this much higher level of him being able to truly give you this pleasure, and you allowing yourself to feel it and then allowing him to give it to you. So maybe he's happy, but he could be happier, and so could you. So, that it could really take it to the even more connecting level, maybe that you didn't even know you could have together. The awareness of that is key. Just if that's coming up for you, where you're being aware of that during sex, where this isn't really feeling that great, and you really find yourself going with it because you don't want to hurt his feelings. Men can feel that energy, and really, if frame it in this, it hurts his feelings more to not truly be pleasing you. And so, just keep reminding yourself of that. Whenever you're allowing him to truly please you, then you're giving him the gift of giving to you. If you're good with that and you don't really care if you have an orgasm or not, you don't necessarily have to fake it. It can be about his pleasure that time, just like he can give you an orgasm and he not have one.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. And today we're talking about what to do when sex is better for him than for you. It's common. It's common in established relationships, and it's really common in casual encounters. And sometimes it's okay if the sex is better for him. You want to please him, and you know that next time he's going to please you. But sometimes it's not okay if the sex is better for him, and it's especially not okay if that's the norm. Too many women put up with sex they don't really enjoy because they feel they have to pretend to enjoy it. A lot of women fake orgasms. It's easier to fake it than to be honest. It's time for us to change, and our guest for today, Terah Harrison, is on a mission to help us. Terah is a licensed professional counselor and host of the podcast, Make More Love, Not War. Her goal is to help couples have more sex and fight less. She discovered the need for her podcast while working with male clients in her private practice in Fort Worth, Texas. Most of these men were striving to be better partners, but the ways in which they were going about it just weren't working. So Terah wondered what would happen if there was a free, easily accessible resource for men to understand women better. And her podcast, Make More Love, Not War, was born. Welcome, Terah.
Thank you for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here talking about my favorite thing, orgasms.
Woohoo! Well, let's start out then with a really hard question. We are talking about how to make more love, but sometimes making more love requires making a little war. If a woman dares to go to her partner and says, honey, that wasn't quite as good for me as it was for you, she risks starting World War III. So how can couples talk about sex without fighting?
Well, I cannot guarantee no fighting, but what I can tell women about this is that we are not responsible for regulating men's emotions and their feelings, and they truly do want to please us. And you talk about this in your book, The Pleasure Principle, Amy, where you talk about how men truly do want to please women, and they do in the bedroom too. And so I think that it's worse to fake an orgasm or really act like things are okay when they're not, because men can pick up on that energy and they really might not know what it means, but you're really not being present in the bedroom when you're doing that. So I think it's worth the risk to bring those things up, because in the end, he's going to feel better because he is going to find out how to please you, and you're going to get more orgasms, and you're going to feel more connected to him because you're giving him the opportunity to please you.
And I think that is the key word there, to please you. What we're not advocating is saying you're making a mistake, you're doing something wrong. What we're advocating is saying, here's how you can please me even more.
Yes. Where you can say, even if this is in the middle of sex, you can say, oh, honey, that feels so good, but let me show you something that I really like. and you can literally show him what pleases you. And a lot of men are turned on by women showing them what pleases them. And so it's a double. It's good there. It's good. But also then he can really see what pleases you, and you are taking that risk by opening up that little door. And that's really starts the ability to have these conversations more often. They don't have to be war. I mean, it doesn't have to be scary. It can even be playful. Oh, I really like that. You can please me even more by doing this, and, kind of just gently opening that door.
I love that, but I'm going to be honest. I am one of those people who for a lot of my life thinks, well, but if he's happy, that's what makes me happy. Because sex is about connecting. It's not about performance, and it's all good. What would you say to that?
Well, I definitely think that's true. It is all good, and the connecting part of sex is really good too. But the thing is let me challenge this: is he really happy if you're not being pleased during sex? Yes, you are feeling connected. You're feeling close. You have, the connection of the bodies together, and you're feeling each other's breathing and all of that, all of those beautiful connecting things, but it could be at this much higher level of him being able to truly give you this pleasure, and you allowing yourself to feel it and then allowing him to give it to you. So maybe he's happy, but he could be happier, and so could you. So, that it could really take it to the even more connecting level, maybe that you didn't even know you could have together.
So one of the issues that I often see is that, men really want to know they've satisfied their woman sexually. It makes them a man. It's really, really important. But for some reason, the way that message ends up at women is not that women need to ask men to give them the sexual experience of a lifetime, but women end up hearing that as in, I'd better pretend I love absolutely everything he's doing. Otherwise, I risk offending his ego.
Yes. And I have to say, even though I'm a person that really advocates orgasm equality and women getting the kind of sex they want, I found myself doing that too. Just the other night, my husband was being a little bit too rough, because sometimes I like it rough, but I didn't like it. I wasn't in the mood for that. And I didn't say anything for a while. And then I realized that I was doing it too. And I think the thing is that that comes back from years and years of us hearing that sex is mainly for men. It's more for men than it is for women. And that, some women don't even really like sex, and maybe you shouldn't like sex. And what does it mean if you do? And all of those messages and all that stuff that we have to work through. So I think the awareness of that is key. Just if that's coming up for you, where you're being aware of that during sex, where this isn't really feeling that great, and you really find yourself going with it because you don't want to hurt his feelings. Men can feel that energy, and really, if frame it in this, it hurts his feelings more to not truly be pleasing you. And so, just keep reminding yourself of that. Whenever you're allowing him to truly please you, then you're giving him the gift of giving to you.
So that's wonderful, but I'm going to now, I'm playing the devil's advocate here. So often when it's nighttime, you're ready for bed, you're not in the mood, you're tired, you've got a laundry list of things to do the next day, and he wants to get it on. And sometimes, you just know nothing's going to happen for you because you're just not in the zone and you're tired. And in this case, a lot of women fake orgasms because it makes him happy and it gets it over with, and you just know that it's not going to happen for you anyway. Isn't sometimes that okay?
I'm not here to judge what's okay and not okay, and what is not okay. So, if that's where you are and you're in that place, then I wouldn't say that that's not okay. It's not always this opportunity to make this awesome connection. I think a lot of of us know that men really do find the connection through sex. And as women, we get a lot of touch and connection in other ways. And that's one of their core ways. So sometimes even if you're not in the mood, yeah, you understand how important it is to him at that moment. And so you want to have sex. But this thing is, you don't even have to fake the orgasm. Maybe if you're not feeling like penetration sex, you can give him oral sex. And so, he's pleased and you're doing something that feels more in line with where you are. Or, different type. It doesn't always have to be penetration sex is my point. But if that's fine, like if you're good with that and you don't really care if you have an orgasm or not, you don't necessarily have to fake it. It can be about his pleasure that time, just like he can give you an orgasm and he not have one. Men could do that too.
That's fantastic. So I want to learn a little bit more about a phrase you talked about earlier, orgasm equality and the orgasm gap.
Yes. Well, I have to give props to Dr. Lori Mintz because I did not make up those terms. I read them in her book, Becoming Clitorate, and she also has some great blogs on Psychology Today. But one of the things that, so I'm just going to read some statistics from her blogs just so people can understand what the orgasm gap is. She studied her own university students, and then she cites other studies that talk about this gap and how many men and women report having orgasms. So in the general population, it was 91% of men and 39% of women. I'm sorry, that was university students. 39% of women and 91% of men. And then people who are in relationships, 85% of men and 68% of women. So that went up quite a bit, but it's 68%. Hookup sex, this is the one that really got me. 55% of men and 4% of women. That's a huge gap. And basically that just goes back to the idea of both men and women not valuing women's orgasms equal to men. And we've all gotten the same kind of messed up messages about sex. And so I think that part of talking about women's orgasms and sexual equality and orgasm equality is about narrowing that gap between men and women, because when it comes down to it, we both want pleasure for each other, but some of us are confused about what that looks like.
Absolutely. So when you talk about the statistics for hookup sex, the thing that immediately pops into my mind is that article that defined the news for so long by a young woman who'd gone on a disastrous date with comedian Aziz Ansari. And he thought it was great, and she felt violated. What are some practical things men can start doing right now and women can start doing right now to close that gap?
Well, the first thing that I want to talk about, and this is something that I would like everyone to write down, is that you have a right to say yes to the kind of sex you want, any kind of sex that you want, and no to any sex that you don't want. So that's for both men and women. And it's not just like yes or no to sex. It's yes or no to the kind of sex that you want and the kind of interactions that you want. And so first off, what men can do is really, I get men say, well, asking for consent, may I kiss you, may I hold your hand? Sometimes that's not sexy, and there is an appropriate time for that and not. And the not is more when you're in a committed relationship and you can read somebody's body language. But in those first dates, men need to be asking more. Are you having fun? Is this okay with you? And really asking the questions. And women really need to work on being more direct, to be able to check in and say, am I really having fun, or do I just want him to think I'm having fun because, I want to make sure he's having fun? So really being able to take a minute, check in, and really ask yourself if you're having a good time. Does the date need to end? Does it need to continue? Because you have a say in that. And he needs to ask you.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to ask, though, how do you say it without offending his ego and without, like, maybe this is a guy you really like and he wants to go further than you want to go, but you know that you've been giving him signals that you really like him. Mm-hmm. You're uncomfortable, but you don't want to say anything because you're worried that you'll never see him again. what are some ways you can communicate that you're not uncomfortable and you want to stop without just launching a bomb and destroying everything?
Well, first off, what I want to say is that if this is really a good guy, a guy that's actually into you, he's not going to have a problem with stopping when you're uncomfortable. So if this is a guy who, when you say, I really enjoyed making out with you, but that's all I want to do tonight, and he gets upset, that is a really good red flag right there. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that I think it's all about kindness, of being able to set a kind boundary. So let's go back to the making out, so you're making out, you're having a good time. His hand starts to go downwards and you really don't want that. Then you can, gently move his hand and say, I'm really enjoying just making out with you tonight. And that's all I really want to do. But I would love to keep kissing you right now.
Yeah, that's sexy.
Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't mean that you're never going to want more, but tonight you're just really enjoying what you're doing with him right now, and it's really turning you on, but you don't have to go any further with that.
That's right. And what you're doing is, again, you're communicating your pleasure. This is what pleases me. That doesn't please me, but this does. Yeah, that's fantastic. So do you talk about stuff like this on your podcast?
Yes, we do. I mean, well, with Make More Love Not More, we're talking about how to have less fighting, but then the more sex is really important. So in the podcast, we have a lot of information both for men and women. For women, what my main goal for women is really advocating that sexual freedom, that we're talking about today, to be able to say yes to the kind of sex you want. And so we talk a lot about women feeling free to masturbate and explore themselves and figure out what kind of sex that they want to have, and remembering how important the clitoris is to all of us in life. And then with men, we talk a lot about helping them understand their emotions and being able to connect with women and how to understand women, and just a lot of relationship tips as well. And we also have podcasts on how men can connect with communities of other men, and really normalizing men's need for support as well.
That's fantastic. And I want to quickly go back to a word you introduced us to earlier, becoming clitorate. I love that.
I know. Again, Dr. Lori Mintz, she's awesome. Yes, but this is the thing. So I was reading her book, and I have to say there were some parts of my vulvic anatomy. I just made that word up, vulvic, but my female anatomy, talking about my, vulva, vagina, all of those exciting, clitoris, most important one. Yeah. But there are some parts of my body that I didn't even know about. And she really goes through in her book how to discover yourself down there. And there's so many areas of pleasure there. It's amazing. I mean, the female body is amazing. I feel so lucky to be a woman and have all of this pleasure center.
That is fantastic. And someone amazing as the author of Pussy, Regina Thomas Hauer. I realize that's an offensive word, but she talks about how the women's body has 8,000 nerve endings down there dedicated to pleasure. And clearly we were created to be the ones experiencing pleasure. Men really don't have that many, so maybe they were designed to serve us. Anyway, that's just
I like it. Yes. My husband calls that the vagina conspiracy. He thinks that's what we do in the bathroom, is talk about how we're going to take over the world one vagina at a time. So I correct him though, it's vulva.
Well, yes, I know. And I props to Emily Gaudreau, who's body safety expert, and she was the one who came on to our show earlier, talked about educating your kids about body parts, and said, hey, girls, you got mothers, you gotta be teaching your girls, those are vulvas, they're not vaginas. And so I stand corrected. That's quite important. So you also offer personalized coaching over Skype, so you can do it from anywhere.
Yes. Well, and actually I use Zoom because it's HIPAA compliant. I don't know, that's neither here nor there, but I do. I am a whole fit wellness coach. And since my expertise is in relationship, I do focus heavily on relationships, but I'm also a nutritional consultant. So I really believe in mind, body, spirit healing, and I look at the entire person.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you want to work with Terah, if you'd like to get the link to her podcast, we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/Terah. That's yourbrilliance.org/TERAH. Terah, thank you for coming on to the show. And we're coming to the end. I wondered if there was any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Well, I think the most important thing, and I said it already, but I want to keep saying it, is this is your mantra. You have a right to say yes to the kind of sex you want and no to any sex you don't want. And also one other thing, remember that the clitoris is core play. It is not foreplay.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.